Hello everyone, it's Steve from Financial Python back with another technical analysis video. Today we're going to be talking about how to calculate and build a MACD indicator. So if you guys aren't familiar with the MACD, it stands for Moving Average Convergence Divergence. It is a mouthful. It's a widely used technical indicator. It helps identify trends, reversals, and momentum in an asset's price. I'm not going to get too far into that, but I am just going to kind of show the formula here. I know this is kind of looks like it could be a little bit of intimidating, but basically what we do to calculate it is we take the exponential moving average, the 12 period. So EMA stands for exponential moving average. We take the 12 period, and then we calculate the 12 period. We calculate the 26 period, and we subtract the two, we find the difference. So that's going to equal the MACD. And then the MACD signal line is another value that we have to calculate. Again, I'm not going to get too deep into what the MACD is, but it has two parts: the MACD itself as well as the signal line, which basically we take the 9-period exponential moving average of the MACD itself, and that's how we calculate the signal. And then typically an indicator that we might look for is when a crossover happens, like when a crossover of the MACD, when the MACD crosses above or below the signal line. So again, today we're going to go through how to A, calculate it, but B, also how to use it as an indicator, which is really simple. So the first thing we're going to have to do is pull down some time series data. So we'll get that from Y Finance. If you guys saw my last video on VWAP, it's very similar to this. We're going to pull down time series data, we're going to run a calculation, then we're going to build an indicator, but we'll go through it in detail for those that haven't seen. So we'll pull down Apple's data, since everybody's usually familiar with Apple. So we're going to build a YF ticker object, and then we're going to get the history. We're going to use the history method. For interval, we can use whatever chart interval we want to use. For instance, the 1 hour, the 1 day, the 1 week, the 1 minute, 5 minute, but we'll stick with the 1 hour. And for period, we have to tell it, how many days worth of data we want. So I'm going to give it, we'll take 60 days, because on these smaller intervals, it's, you can't get much more than that. So we'll pull that down, and let's print that. Okay, so you can see we have the time series data. We're going back to July 5th all the way to today. Today's the 27th. And again, we're getting the hour data. So, we got the 1:30, and there's the 12:30, and you get the idea. So again, how are we going to calculate this? So again, the first thing we need to do is calculate these moving averages. So we need to get the 12 period EMA and the 26 period EMA, exponential moving average. And you don't have to use those exact values. I know some people, like they could be inputs, like where you could decide, I want to use the 10 period and the 26 for whatever reason, but I'm just saying, if you so desire, you're welcome to use whatever you want. The 12 and the 26 are the most common. The idea being the 12 is more representative of like recent price changes, and it's it's sensitive to short-term movements, whereas the 26 is smoother and it's going to react slowly. So it's more of like a long-term trend. So again, the idea with the MACD is a shift in momentum. So that's why people like using those two values. But anyway, so we'll stick with those for now. So we're going to calculate, again, the EMA 12, and we're just going to insert that as a column in our data frame. And to get that, we're going to use the close method. And then again, we want the exponential weighted moving average, which in pandas, they have a they have a method for that. So pandas, again, we're working with a data frame. So that's what this is, this data value. So we have access to all these pandas methods here. And as you can see, the CWM provides exponentially weighted movement. So that's something we're able to, call right here. So just doing .EWM, it's just going to call that method, and we're going to calculate an EMA just by doing that. But we do have to give it some values, sorry. So we're going to give it a span of 12, which again, this could be made a variable, and it could be dynamic. But the idea, again, 12 being that we're going to get the 12-period EMA. So we get that, and we use mean to add those values as we, or I'm sorry, to get the average of those values as we calculate the exponential weighted movement. So we can run that. And you know what, let's just print that one more time, just to make sure we're putting that in. Okay, so you can see, I mean, you know, it should be the same as the close price, but then it starts adjusting 0.43, 0.20. Right now it's 171, while as the close price is 169. So right now the price is a little below the MA12. They must be, you know, having a tough day. So we also want the MA26, as I mentioned, which we're going to calculate just like that. I guess I'll just run that by itself. So same thing. So the span of 26 is basically saying, you know, what time period do you want? We want 26. And going back to our formula, you can see the MACD is just going to be the MA12 minus the MA26. So that's exactly what we're going to do here. Oops. Data MACD. Well, can't type. There we go. Equals data EMA 12 minus data EMA 26. Simple, right? Put that. Let's make sure we have our three values in our data frame. So you can see we have the EMA 12, the EMA 26, and the MACD. So that's good. And the last thing that we need to add is the signal line. So again, when we go back and look at the formula, it's taking the EMA 9 of the MACD. So, you know, we're going to take the 9-period moving average, exponential moving average of the MACD value itself. So let's see how we do that. We're going to create a new variable, call it signal line. You know, not too fancy with our variable naming. We're going to pass in the MACD. We're going to use the exponential weighted movement method, and we want the 9 span this time. Adjust is still going to be false. Again, yeah, the 9, that's pretty typical. I don't think I've ever seen any reason to, or anybody that uses anything other than 9. But so we'll calculate the signal line, make sure it's in our data frame, and you see we have it here. So you can see the MACD right now is a little below the signal line. And yeah, the idea would be in a signal, we would want to know when the MACD crosses above or below this signal line, because the idea is that that would indicate a change in momentum, right? If the MACD turns above. So right now, you know, I'm assuming Apple itself is on a little bit of a downslide for the day. I'm just going to confirm that. I would imagine that's the case. Yeah. So I mean, it's down. You know, I mean, not much. It's down, you know, almost 2% today. So a little bit of a slide, but yeah. So, and obviously, as you can see again, like it looks like that's kind of been the case all day. Like it's just going down. So there's not, you know, going to be much chop in terms of the, you know, the MACD. It's just, you know, it's down. So, which we can kind of see here, just keeps getting lower and lower, right? I don't know, here it was above. Yeah, okay. So yeah, right here we would have had a signal, but yeah. Let's talk about actually how we're going to build an indicator, because again, the idea is that, you know, we don't want to just calculate these things and put them in a data frame. We want to actually know when those crosses happen. We want to know when the MACD crosses below the signal line. We want to know when the MACD crosses above the signal line, you know, whether that's part of a trading bot or some sort of notification system, whatever the case is. So how are we going to do that? I mean, really, we don't need the super historical data on July 5th. We need to know, did it just happen right now? So what we want to do is check the last row. So we're going to create a new variable called last row, and to get the last row, we're just going to take data, the iLocation -1, which basically sets last row equal to the last row, and we want to compare it to the second to last row, which is going to be just location 2. And let's print out some of the values that we have there, just so we can kind of see, you know, if a crossover happened. So last row, say MACD and then last row, let me make these double quotes just so there's no quote conflicts. And then last row signal line. And then I'm going to copy both of those. I'll take the second to last row. There we go. Let's print these. Okay, so we can see the last row MACD is 173.06, which we know that. Here's the signal line. Here's the second to last row values. And again, we would want to just alert ourselves, or do whatever we want to do. We want to do that when a crossover happens at the end, right? So that's basically what we need to do, is calculate, is know if that happened. So how are we going to do that? We're going to compare the second last row MACD. So we're going to say if the second last row MACD is above the second last row signal line, and the last row MACD is below the signal line in the last row, that means there was a cross below. And right now I'm just printing it, but obviously, in some sort of production scenario, you're going to want to, have some sort of action that happens based on that. And the alternative would be, if really I'm just going to copy this and switch it around, and we'll just walk through it. We'll say if the second to last row MACD is below the second to last row signal line, and the last row MACD is above the last row signal line. So if we're saying that was a cross above, right? Because again, it was below, now it's above. Else, basically, no crossover. All right, so if we save that, or if we run this, obviously we know there was no crossover because it didn't happen here, but I think we can, kind of just get an idea of what it would look like if we ran this before, because again, we're seeing here the MACD, the MACD is below, here it's above, right? So this is row -1, -2, -3, -4. No, it's not above 173, 174. Whoops, I was gonna print that out, but I'm incorrect. It was not above. So yeah, I'm not able to fake this at the moment, but yeah, the idea would be, again, if the MACD was above in this row and above the signal line, and then now it is below, we would want to be notified on that. We would want to know, okay, that cross below just happened, and it's really as easy as this. It's what is this? 10 lines of code. It's really really no more complicated than this. Again, you can build yourself a nice little indicator and use it however you want. So hope you learned something from that. Thank you for sticking with me, and I'll see you next time. Bye.